YouTube, we always talk about Eloise as an early game hero. I say we used to talk about her a lot about 18 months ago. Loads of stuff in this game has changed. Loads of reward requirements, things that can push your account forwards. It's all different. Eloise, I do not believe, is the best early strategy for pretty much everyone. Free-to-play players, spenders, whoever you are, I don't think this hero is the best. If you don't already know, Eloise is a great defensive hero. She reacts to enemies' attacks when she blocks, she counterattacks, putting out damage over time, healing herself up, and tearing enemies to pieces. And it's unique, her damage over time. It can't be purified, which means you can keep that pressure up. There are classic heroes that stop her though, Vesa, Flora, even Garuda gives her a really hard time. Garuda is a really popular early E5 as well, and actually guys, PvP is mattering more and more now, with more rewards getting added month after month to the PvP game modes. We've got free awakens, soon we'll have treasure train tickets, and we'll even have access to grimoire items, all for PvP progress. So you gotta be scared of some of these heroes like Garuda. They're gonna cause you a lot of pain. But we learned a lot with the Eloise as a main hero strat, and we can transfer a lot of what we've learned into still building some really good teams. So instead of an Eloise as your first E5, I think your actual best choice is a MKxJUMP. I've done this myself on the Contract Story Gem series, and MKxJUMP is one of the most dominating PvP heroes. If you've been in the Brave Trial anytime soon, you'll know there are MKxJUMPs everywhere, and they will tear you the heck to pieces. MKxJUMP offers damage over time, the ability to turn people into dubs, and can even slow down opponents. He offers poison that constantly comes out whilst also healing himself. This hero is super strong. He synergizes with a load of different artifacts as well. Receptor helps his crowd control, Melodic Strings helps his damage, Elusive Mirror lets him feed energy to the team, and potentially even improve his own crowd control. It's a good hero for early players. MKxJUMP also is going to help in areas of the game which become more important the longer you play, like the Void Vortex. Void Vortex, you need control, and MKxJUMP can help with that strategy. In areas of the game like Aspen Dungeon, MKxJUMP is also really good. He's bonkersly strong at Seal Land, and he's even going to have some utility in the Tower of Oblivion. However, you will eventually reach points in the Tower of Oblivion where MKxJUMP is going to struggle. But guys, there's another hero who is super good at early game progress that also benefits from the same guild tech as MKxJUMP. MKxJUMP's a mage. You know who else is a mage? Your boy Tix. Tix can steal enemy attack, silence opponents, and horrify them as well. Tix is super good, really solid Aspen Dungeon hero, dominates the Tower of Oblivion, and offers support and crowd control and damage. In fact, lots of waves that people struggle with in campaign can be cleared with a Tix, which can help you get one step closer to unlocking the Void campaign. Now, a hero that complements both MKxJUMP and Tix is not actually a mage. It is a hero that we've seen all over Eloise strats. It's 9-star Ignis. 9-star Ignis is going to give control immunity to one of these two heroes, which is really useful, so it can help MKxJUMP keep the pressure up, not get crowd controlled himself, and even get more active skills by gaining 100 energy. Or you can put the Ignis next to Tix, and give the Tix a Melodic Strings, which is a really strong artifact for dealing damage. It's going to buff your holy damage, it's going to buff your all damage dealt, it punches out, then Ignis feeds the Tix energy and lets him do it again. This can clear a lot of problematic waves. This can be really strong in PvP, actually, just killing people very quickly. It can help you making progress in the Realms Gate, and it can help you burst through things like the Tower. It's a very strong ability and cuts through a lot of campaign. The cool thing about the double active burst strat is it doesn't have the issue that Eloise does. Eloise traditionally doesn't like crowd control because it stops her from blocking. MKxJUMP, though, crowd controls, which is why people don't often run MKxJUMP with Eloise. The double tap tick strategy does not care if the enemies are crowd controlled or not, so you can still run MKxJUMP to crowd control opponents, and it's going to make this MKxJUMP better, putting him alongside that Tix, because that Tix is going to be mucking the opponents up at the same time. It's a beautiful strat that's going to get you far. Now, we've only mentioned at this point 2 E5 heroes. The Ignis doesn't need to be any higher than 9 or 10 star. And that's for a reason. When you're pumping out early progress, if you start building loads and loads of E5s, the one thing you're going to not be able to do is get yourself void imprints. Each node requires another 10-star hero, and you want to prioritize your food towards making the MKxJUMP and the ticks as strong as possible. To do that, in events like the Glorious Treasury, you're going to have to prioritize Stellar Shards as early game rewards to make that possible. But Stellar Shards aren't the only thing you might want to pick up here. I've mentioned before, grabbing egg chests, especially if it's your first ever Glorious Treasury, can be super duper useful. If you've got an E5, you can get a Somber egg opened as your first egg, and potentially you can get the really powerful Transcendence or Light star spawns from here. That's because those two are available in Somber eggs, and you're guaranteed to hatch a star spawn from your first egg. So always open a Somber egg as your first, as these guys offer all damage dealt, holy damage, and in case of the Dark one, skill damage. 3 really strong abilities. That said, if your eggs are good and your Stellar Shard total is high, one thing you could even consider grabbing, and this is complete sacrilege, because we've never really said this in a video before, you could consider getting Crystals of Transcendence. The reason we're saying this is because Stellar Shards and Crystals are given so often now, and Glorious Treasury events are extremely common. Therefore, you will not struggle for Stellar Shards. You can pick them up very easily, and getting yourself Crystals of Transcendence means you can get to a Transcendence hero quicker. Now, if you were doing the Eloise strategy, your best first Transcendence hero has been traditionally a Hyperspace Hunter, Ailamak, because he's going to buff you when you block, giving you shields and added defenses. That supports Eloise's playstyle. But that's just building a bad hero to help Eloise, which makes me think, well, maybe Eloise isn't very good if she's forcing us to build weird Transcendence heroes like Ailamak. Ailamak has massively fallen out of favor in the current meta because crowd control is so much better, but that's the one thing Eloise doesn't like. But we've already established that MKxJUMP gives good crowd control and Tix doesn't care, so let's hammer on that crowd control strat. So some good heroes to consider could be an early game Therapist of Blood Betty. However, if you build her too soon, you will not have access to the Tree of Origin because you need to be level 130 and you need to unlock the Void campaign. Without Tree of Origin, one key item you can't get for her is her core, and that's going to help her crowd control enemies. And you can't get her Sublimation, which is going to help her energy feed herself, which is really, really strong because it lets her loop her active skills over and over again. So unless you have access to those things, Betty might not even be a good choice. In that case, I want to tell you about Great Sage Wukong. This guy is an absolute monster because he can deal tons of burst damage, he can debuff enemies' defenses, he can give you access to shields, and all of that is added with the fact that he can crowd control the enemy team by stunning them. And if you get his tree upgrades, which will of course come later, you can increase the duration of that stun to 2 rounds, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's just from his passive 2, Unvulnerable Body. So basically, what you're using the early Wukong for is as a massive damage dealer, where you can use your early melodic strings that you were using on Tix on him. So by picking up Crystals of Transcendence, you're actually doing so to get a Wukong on your account fast. Now, that means if you're picking up copies of chests, like this one for example, an Imminent Hero Selection chest, you want to be saving these, because these are one of the easiest ways to get light and dark heroes. And Wukong is just that, a light hero. If you're looking at these other 5-star chests you could have around here, I don't know if I have one to hand, but these ones do not contain light and darks, which means they're not going to contain Wukong. That's bad. You can use those happily on your MKxJUMP, on your Tix, that's totally cool. On Ignis copies, that's all fine. In fact, you can even pick up an Ignis copy if you want to from the Glory Challenge, just for simply building yourself that copy of Tix. If you look here, getting an E3 Tix gets you, look at that, a 5-star Ignis copy. That's one of your 3 you need for 9-star. You don't have that same luxury with Wukong, so you're going to have to get Imminent Hero chests and some Trans chests to pull him. HomxJUMP, on the other hand, super easy hero to pick up. He's available in so many different Transcendence chests. Not this one here, but that's quite cool to see that you can get Vulcan or Natalie in that one. I believe it's this one. Yeah, look at that. You got yourself a 5-star HomxJUMP available in here. And big events often do give Transcendence hero copy chests, making HomxJUMP really easy to grab. And as well, he's a Fortress hero and is given a lot, actually. DH Games love giving out Transcendence heroes as rewards. So, yeah, not too difficult to pick up copies of heroes if you know what you're doing. But anyway, let's say you've got 9 copies of Wukong. You're ready to build this guy to E5. Your HomxJUMP smacking, your Tix is smacking, and you're thinking, oh man, I want to get a Transcendence hero. If you've got those 9 Wukong copies, and if your Stellar Shards are really swimming, you've got a load of Stellar Shards coming in, and you're doing great, then yeah, maybe it's time to pick up some Crystals of Transcendence and build a Wukong. Now, other rewards you can get from events will include these gorgeous little items here called Deific artifacts, and these are essential for early game and late game progress. You want to pick these up during big events. The easiest way to do that is with 3,750 contract story gems and during a big Prophet Orb Heroic Summon Scroll event or something like that where you can get these as part of the big rewards. Now, we break those events down in our event reviews here, so make sure you subscribe to catch those when new events come to Idle Heroes. But you see this here, this exotic pistol? This is going to be your best friend. You want 2 copies of this to initially turn your melodic strings into this, a lingering melody of the universe. It offers more holy damage, more attack, more energy, and 50 extra speed. But more importantly, it's getting you the added bonuses of a splendid version of a melodic string. So you only need 2 melodic strings and 2 of those pistols to get to this. And if you wanted to, if you want to make that damage even better, you could consider getting 2 more pistols, 2 more melodic strings, and taking this all the way up to Splendid, where it actually will massively improve your attack, and the buffs will reset on round 4. Normally, a melodic strings gets worse over time, but a Splendid lingering melody will get all of the bonuses back at the beginning of round 4, making this extremely strong, and it actually works well in boss fights because you don't lose the deteriorated damage in those longer fights because it keeps on coming back. I would actually prefer, in the early game, a Splendid melodic strings to a Breath of Forest Spirit. And that's a bit weird. Breath of Forest Spirit is an excellent artifact. It's an upgraded version of Atlas Cane. It gives 300% skill damage, but there's 2 problems to Breath of Forest Spirit. First of all, Burst is just so much better. Wukong is a good hero. Mockman can use this. Even Vulcan can have a solid time with this. Heroes like Aspen do very well. So lots of the popular early Transcendence heroes, when you get to 3 or 4 Transcendence heroes, will make use of this in the mid-game. But if you're trying to build yourself an upgraded Breath of Forest Spirit, you need Atlas Canes. And Atlas Cane, actually, if you take a look at the Glorious Treasury, cannot be obtained in the Treasury 2. But you know what else can't be obtained in the Treasury 2? Demon Bell. And that is an essential artifact for a cool strategy called Energy Feed. So if you're thinking about whether you should get Deific Atlas Cane or you should get Deific Melodic Strings, I'm always going to push you towards the Melodic Strings, because Atlas Cane is a much harder artifact to get, and when you could get Atlas Cane, you should be prioritizing Demon Bell for the Energy Outburst ability that's going to feed energy to your team, getting you multiple active skills. And like we said earlier, with Ignis combining with Tix, having multiple active skills is really good. So really, the only artifact we've talked about at this point is Melodic Strings, and a bit of Demon Bell, I guess. But Elusive Mirror is another really good one you want to pick up. This will feed energy to you at the start or end of a round. It's in this weird window between rounds. What's nice about Elusive Mirror's energy feed is it triggers Betty's passive. Betty is a hero which a lot of people talk about all the time, and the main reason she's really good is because when she gains over 100 energy, she will deal her active skill regardless of if it's her turn to attack. This will crowd control enemies, and if you make sure she's got a core, this can trigger very, very consistent crowd control, meaning the enemies are never ever going to get a chance to attack you. And this strategy is absolutely fundamental to making progress in the Void Vortex, an area that's going to get you more Stellar Shards and more Crystals of Transcendence, which will help you to build more Transcendence heroes to powerful levels on your account. So you definitely want to make sure that you're pushing the Void Vortex to get that progress. That means if you've already got a Wukong established, you might want to consider getting her built on your account. because Betty can complement the Wukong, offering more control and give you that much needed progress in the Void Vortex. Another artifact to consider then, not just with Elusive Mirror, is actually Ruyi Scepter. And don't get this confused with Dragon Ruyi Scepter. I will admit that is a very good artifact, but it's extremely expensive and requires 4 Deific grimoires. That's ridiculously pricey, especially for free-to-play players. Instead, a normal Ruyi Scepter can be just fine with a Betty, in the Void Vortex specifically, because the Void Vortex lets you run heroes from other factions, not just Transcendence. So you can run an Ignis next to the Betty, so the Ignis dies when she gets hit, gives 100 energy to Betty, which triggers Betty, and even better, the Betty becomes 100% control immune, which means the nasty planet effects don't stop your Betty. And that is extremely strong. So combining that with your Wukong, who can do stun and damage, your MKxJUMP, who can turn enemies into doves, that Betty with an Elusive Mirror that you probably have put on your MKxJUMP for this strategy is just going to keep looping energy over and over and over again. Now, quick aside, if you get to Tree of Origin 3 on 3 different heroes, so let's say you've got a Shadow or Abyss hero, you've got yourself a Fortress or Forest hero, and you've got your Dark and Light hero, that is enough to build a Tree of Origin 5 hero, which is probably going to be your Wukong. But if you have enough resources to go even deeper and build a level 120 hero, which is 1.25 million spiritual essence needed, you can then loop the whole bottom row, which is why it's super important that you save soul symbols for this. So using soul symbols to destroy these heroes after you build them to level 120 means you can do this in every single faction and get yourself tons of spiritual essence. In the meantime, make sure you do the seal lands when that happens, because having a very, very powerful Tree of Origin hero should be able to clear the seal land. But anyway, if you've gone and done that, that means the Betty that you have should be able to be made to Tree of Origin 5, which means you can even consider getting sublimation on her abilities, which will improve the energy that she feeds herself. You can see when Scarlet Therapy is triggered, she'll give herself an additional 30 energy, which is really nice. And she'll also gain more energy when she twines opponents. That makes it reliable that she can loop the energy round and round, and when the Elusive Mirror triggers at the start of the round, it will allow her to be over 100 energy and crowd control the opponents. And that's why this works so well. The big thing I want to stress is that you don't build too many E5s, because you're going to need a lot of 10 stars to get those heroes to Tree of Origin 5. The other thing I need to stress is it's not just Deific artifacts you're after and Stellar Shards. You are going to want to try and get yourself sublimation so that you can upgrade these abilities on the Wukong and on the Betty. Sublimation is really, really important to make your heroes stronger. For Betty, you will also want to get a single core. That's just 2 of these 50 chests to get to 100 shards, which is enough for 1 core. After that, you don't need any more cores on your account. Do not let yourself get distracted picking these up. Sublimation is far more important. Chat's right as well, by the way. If you're looking for ways to pick up resources, you can actually pick them up here in the vending machine. That's going to get yourself access to an artifact chest, which is pretty nice. And if you go all the way to the very end to 450, you can even get yourself an orange artifact, which is pretty cute. Obviously, we don't want to build too many E5 heroes, like I've said, but you might say, hey, I need E5s to unlock the Primal Grimoire, MK. I need 6 of them. Well, yeah. You will eventually get to a point where you do have enough food for 6 E5s. Before that, though, prioritize everything into Tree of Origin. If you can have 6 E5s, though, you do want to have grimoire materials so that you can get level 50 in the grimoire. After that point, you actually need even more E5s to take this further, which is going to be difficult to do. So you just want to hit that level 50 for a few extra million attack on your account. What also comes with that is the opportunity to improve your hero's enables, which means you can go even further than just enable level 5. You can start using these additional resources called enabling infusion stones to make your heroes extra strong. If you're already okay for sublimation, if you've already claimed Grimoire Essence to get to level 50, you only need to claim it once, really. And if you've already got yourself, obviously, the sublimation and the Deific artifacts and the stuff to get yourself to a position where you have that splendid lingering melody of the universe, you might then ask yourself, maybe it might not be a bad idea to get some enabling infusion stones to improve the power of my key heroes. That could be good. After a couple improvements, you're already going to get 50% extra precision on your hero, which can be very strong, and progressively improving the enable levels will make your team stronger. So for those of you who are maybe spending money, or have very good luck during these events, or maybe DH Games offer us extra ways of getting rewards, hunting for enabling infusion stones could be a good idea to make that Wukong and Betty even stronger. In the meantime, you're probably going to want to think about some extra heroes to have alongside your account, and you can build these at any time. They're going to be really useful. So I'm just going to list a few for you now. You might want to get yourself Amun-Ra, as Amun-Ra is able to give you bubbles that defend you. She can curse enemies, she can petrify them, and she can do extremely well. This is a really good strategy in Void Vortex to bring an Amun-Ra. She's going to protect you, and she can do extra effects against enemies that are healing because of her healing curse ability, which will actually damage them instead. She's good. Also, if you have the opportunity, why not consider an Oberon? Even at 9-star, he can be super useful. 10-star is also okay, as he's going to be a hero that can help you in the Void Vortex as well. You can even feed him afterwards. He's not really that useful, but if you want to build this hero to help you in the Void Vortex, he's going to be really good. Again, helping that Wukong and Betty make progress. It's all because he can twine enemies, which is a very, very powerful ability, and his twine happens at the start of the round, which means it bypasses Purify, so it can help you just lock down those enemies even more reliably. Another hero to consider, because she's really good at helping you kill bosses, is Olivia. It all comes down to her shrink ability, which massively improves the damage that enemies take, whilst also decreasing the damage they deal to you. She's also got Fairy's Guard, which is a little similar to Amun-Ra's bubbles, which can protect you from damage as well. So do not underestimate Olivia. She's a very, very popular hero against boss fights. Even at 9-star and 10-star, she can be super good. And finally, another hero to consider building to just 9-star or 10-star could be a Deific, mainly for this passive here, which lets him replicate random damage over time or attribute reduction effects onto enemies, which means you can spread out Tix's attack steal, or you can spread out, maybe if you're lucky, all the damage over time done by a Holmes Young or his debuffs and stuff like that. You can really start muddling around with opponents, increasing the nasty stuff that you're up to. And you can also improve the duration of control effects, which could be pretty useful. So that can be nice. It also works on damage over time and attribute reduction effects as well. So improving their duration by 2 rounds is pretty fun. So Deific can be a nice support hero to help with your negative effects. So consider building those at any time. And some of you might be saying, hey, what about Carrie? And Carrie is actually a really, really strong hero. You might want to build her to 9 or 10-star, but I actually prefer just keeping her at 5-star if you do get copies, and just using her to poke and steal energy from opponents, because she's really good just at 5-star. That's absolutely great. And you'll do well with just her dodges. She can resurrect. This actually has also got some use in Star Expedition with the Osis set, because you get buffed when heroes die. So you could run a ton of carries that will die and resurrect and die and resurrect to keep buffing your main damage dealer. And yeah, 5-star carry is just a really reliable hero to just throw in onto a team if you need that extra bit of progress. And another really cool hero, by the way, when it comes to getting out extra progress, is Waldeck. This guy is super underrated. He offers the ability Blood Frenzy, which means when you get attacked, you heal and you get extra attack. Really nice damage over time effect, and it makes your team much stronger and can protect you against enemies that are hitting you. If you want a 9-star hero just to put on your team to give you a good passive when they die, Waldeck is a really good one to consider. So all these heroes just can fill out your team and can add to whatever you're fighting. Obviously, some are better in stuff like Void Vortex, where you need crowd control. Others will just sit around being heroes that can help you in other game modes, maybe boss fights, for example, where crowd control isn't as reliable. The other good thing about these heroes is they all work at low power levels, meaning you don't have to heavily invest in them, so you can prioritize, like you can see I've done here, with getting heroes all the way up to Tree of Origin, which is extremely potent if you're able to get those levels on those heroes. By the time you get to 3 Transcendence heroes, you can then just focus on whatever the heck you like. Whether it's going to be a main hero like Mockman, maybe you want to consider getting yourself a Vulcan, you could even consider getting yourself a Lord of Fear Aspen. There's loads of popular heroes out there which can be built around on your account. But using Betty with Wukong reliably to push through the early parts of the game can be extremely potent on your account. Not to mention, it'll get you reliable Realmsgate progress and Void campaign progress to mean you can start getting drops of Stellar Shards, Crystals of Transcendence. You can get important stuff like Grimoire here from the campaign. And by having Realmsgate progress, you can even get yourself the Contractual Strategy, which is going to get you 600 Contract Story Gems, which will help you in future events to get more and more rewards. So yeah, Eloise is not a hero I really would recommend for newer players, whether you're a spender or free to play. Using Homes Young, focusing on burst and crowd control, and getting a Tix in there with all the other good heroes I've listed today definitely can do very powerful things on your account and get you extremely reliable progress. And if you want to push into a Wukong early, then eventually go into a Betty, get your Glory Challenge done, have a good time, I think that's going to be way more potent for an early modern Idle Heroes account. Lingering Melody of the Universe is definitely the artifact to pick up, but as I said, Breath of Forest Spirit does have its use, but I'd rather be picking up Demon Bells than Antler's Cane, so that's the only thing that keeps me away from it. If you do lean towards a hero like Vulcan or Williams or someone like that in the future, Breath of Forest Spirit is still good, but I'll be covering more about that in my specific guides for those heroes in the future. But hopefully this super guide to the early game has helped you with all the different heroes to consider building, and I think Eloise, my friends, is old news. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, keep up with all your different Idle Heroes game modes, especially PvP now to get some extra rewards, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe for more stuff. Until then, happy idling.